These don't actually help. So, recording started. Gravity engineering, fundamentals of gravity fields and technology that make use of it. I guess I didn't get here early enough. Here is the enemy, orbital mechanics. The goal of gaining control over gravity is to make vehicles that can move about a planetary system freely. We all know that air travel is much more preferable than ground travel. So our modern technology based off of Newtonian mechanics leaves us with this thing called orbital mechanics. Your vehicles are stuck in a certain inclination and altitude, inclination to the ecliptic of the Earth. Most launches come out of NASA at 30 degrees, 33 degrees. There's some, tilt that they are launched with, always to the east. Orbital mechanics makes use of a planet's rotation, and herein lies a key. It seems that we have taken away the fact that fundamental to gravity is the fact that it is a rotational force. Quickly, if you're trying to learn about general relativity, this isn't the place, but mass causes space-time to curve. Space-time is curved. This curvature is related to engineering by the energy momentum density. Space-time is curved by energy momentum density. That needs to be reworded. Mass is a special case and related to charge by alpha. Alpha is a fine scale constant. Relativistic precession based on spin can be used to account for the discrepancy of the position of the spacecraft. For simplicity's sake, gravity is a spinning field. That can be reworded. Alpha is a fundamental physical constant that characterizes the strength of an electromagnetic interaction between elementary charged particles, such as electrons and photons. It is denoted by the Greek letter alpha. The fine structure constant is dimensionless, meaning it has no units and it is a pure number. It is approximately equal to 1 over 137, or more precisely, its value is about 0.007297. That's enough. Fine structure constant plays a critical role in many areas of physics, including quantum electrodynamics, the theory that describes how light and matter interact. Precise definition of a gravity field. You got to understand gravity is an attractive force. The superforce, as argued by Sal Pius, is to treat a fundamental part of his argument is treating a strong nuclear force the same as large G, which is far field attraction to a point charge. A gravity field is an inward collapsing monopole with a rotational frequency that is proportional to the normalized density of the aggregated matter, which comprises the inertial mass of the celestial body. The field density falls off ideally at 1 over r squared, an inverse square. Regional anomalies will exist in the field due to mass concentrations caused by terrain features and their aggregates. Mass cons. When the Apollo missions were flying around the moon, or if you're doing any sort of orbital mechanics, you have to take into consideration that there are mass concentrations. The little ugly picture at the bottom of this slide is the geoid map of Earth, created by the European Space Agency. And it shows where the gravitational field is slightly denser on Earth. Earth's gravity field is not uniform. Simple field dynamics. What is a field? Well, that's where... Get a magnet and a sheet of paper. Here's a ring-shaped field. Same concept applies for gravity and its cause. The problem is you can't see. This is a three-dimensional field. You're only allowed to see one section of it, and as you can see, it has an effect. The field. This is horrible physics. I'm sorry, everybody. This is where I should have graphics. Same concept applies for gravity caused by mass. The local space-time field is curved proportional to the amount of mass in it. Additionally, the gravity field has a spin, which can be understood as an interaction of magnetics and the quantum mechanics of spin states. Quantum mechanics is simple once a few basic principles are conceptualized. Oh, general relativity. Here's where we need Mr. Sarfati. This is relativistic mathematics. These are referencing a matrix, a complex matrix. Mu and V. So here's where I've forgotten. I'm not in my collegiate shape anymore. This one could be done a little bit better. Usually understood as the physics of fast-moving particles. This equation is the relativistic understanding of gravity. Uses matrices to describe the energy content. T sub mu V, that is a 4x4 matrix of our space-time. Space-time only has 3 dimensions physically and 1 dimension of time. We seem to be stuck moving in a linear motion. We are always progressing towards increasing states of entropy. That is your real definition of time, is that everything, even though we've created shapes and orders, the amount of entropy that I created is greater than the order that this is. But there are self-organizing fields, and that's another key to this, is learning that there are self-organizing structures within space-time, and that helps you control entropy. Anyway, back to flow. The casual structure of space-time is described more fully through the use of general relativity. Geodesics, everybody. So if you're in curved space-time, or if there's a gradient, things are going to move along the easiest path. Everything falls along a geodesic while in free fall because you're inertially bound to a rotating planet. Your inertial frame is in rotation. So if you were able to pull yourself, isolate yourself from space-time in a single flow, if you're able to isolate your inertia from the inertial frame, supposedly you could see things fall in a curve. This concept, we do understand. The straightest flight between two places on a globe is a curve over the top of it, not along the radius. Space flight is all about following these curves under using Newtonian mechanics. Here is some of my mathematics trying to make a spinning dipole or quadrupole tied into a field. I should get that model out. That was a real beautiful one. Anyway, that's on my Mac. This should be a 3D graphic. I can do that nowadays. Missing mathematics. Frame dragging is proven by gravity probe B. So this gravity probe B, it's called the lens stirring effect. This is a bogus fucking slide. Bum, bum, bum. Oh yeah, I did find the, there's a fancy Greek word, the Iotovos effect. Blah, 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 horrible slide. Moving forward, here's our gravity probe B. everybody makes reference to this, but inside of it, there is the most finely crafted sphere. And it has the satellite is quite complex. The funny horn thing is a star tracker on it. We need to pay attention to the magnetometers. Why do they have a proton monitor? Oh, they had to measure for the incoming. So frame dragging, noise from frame dragging can be affected by solar weather. This thing is heavily shielded. The dewar is where the spinning flask or spinning sphere is. It's probably held in a vacuum. Forward experiment. So it'd be kind of cool to go further into Gravity Probe B and look at the spinning sphere that was basically it had a axis of rotation, and as the satellite moved around the Earth, this axis was pulled slightly off. The sphere's inertial moment was tied into the planet, and there is a change in polarization orientation. Believe it or not, that the pole, the spinning sphere represents a solid field, and it has a pole, which is the axis of rotation, and that was pulled off its orientation due to the satellite precessing around or going around the Earth in its orbit. So Earth is rotating as the satellite is orbiting it, and the pole of it was tilted and that is your frame dragging. So seems pretty self-explanatory once you understand the mechanism and what's going on. But they were relating polarization state between two spinning spheres. Well, one of them was on orbit, and that showed that Earth's inertial frame has an effect on a inertial frame outside of it and can affect its orientation relative to the polarization of the solar system through its relation to the Earth. Gravity Probe B, experiment designed to measure, and I just covered this. It's very well covered. It needs to be understood more publicly. So, gravitroelectric versus gravitomagnetic. Herein starts my word solid. Actually, subconsciously, I've been trying to reproduce this thing. This is the slide on the bottom left is created by Martin Tamar out of Austria, and he was talking about rotating a ring shaped magnet. They always want to rotate things because, gravity is a spinning force. If you don't get that, you need to stop this presentation and leave. But so they want to rotate it while there. Let's see. So this ring magnet. Let's see. Turn it edge wise. Horrible presentation. There is its plane of polarization. That white line comes out of the equator. Similarly, there is a node. Where it's brighter, where it's wider is where there's a point. So as I pull this out, I'll show you what I'm doing is this. Field topology creates a node. The material topology creates a field topology. That is a fucking takeaway that nobody's getting at. The image on the right comes out of Bob Forward Sr.'s paper on how to create a gravitational moment. Remember, gravity is an attractive force that generates a spinning field around it. So engineering gravity includes the concept of attraction and rotation and polarization. Flying saucer is essentially more attracted to its power system than the hull is attracted to the planet. Can you get that one? And this slide is all chopped up. Anyway, inductance and field formation. This is, I was keyed into whatever Todd Desiato thinks. A lot of people think that gravity is the electric field as it moves through. I don't quite get it. I really don't, but resistance. As electricity moves through space-time, there is a reactive force. Maybe there's just, it's the ether, right? And as an electron moves through ether, it generates a magnetic field about it. Here I'm referencing the material properties of an electric versus a magnet. That would be, I think that's something I should put into the slide deck. Inductance is the effect of charging an electric circuit through resonance of charges via quantum tunneling. Wow. It is possible to create stronger field effects by using stronger nuclear forces in spintronic circuits. I have to go over this. EM fields can be attached to toroids that use superconducting wire. That's the levitated dipole experiment out of MIT. Inductance is the effect of charging an electric circuit through resonance of charges via quantum tunneling, because you bring two coils together and the coil within the levitating coil picks up a charge, and then that charge starts circulating about the there's got to be a ground in there. The charge starts circulating, trying to find ground. It wants to go, once it's induced into the coils inside of the floating coil, it wants to find a ground. We'll get into magnons. My understanding needs to get better. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Mechanics. Currently, superconducting materials are needed for the field effects. Material sciences may provide a better solution, such as Bose-Einstein condensates and conditioned ferrite. The electric field, we always affect the electrons. E field separates from the B field. That is a nonsense statement. That can be removed as long as the superconducting material of the ring stays at or below its critical temperature, the Curie temperature, the field will not collapse. The size of the field is proportional to the frequency that is induced in the coils within the ring. Here I'm quoting, again, I'm talking about the floating coil and trying to start applying a rotating current, a rotating electric field to an oblate spheroid. Multiple charges can be induced onto a single ring. Yep. And these are horrible. This slide has been butchered. Let's go back. Lenz's law. Moving magnetic field will generate eddy currents in materials nearby. These currents slow an object's motion while they are in the field of the area of effect, the field area. Find the frequencies at which water generates eddy currents. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? That's microwave engineering. I think that was something I put in there. Electric field stores the energy. The energy density of the electric field is related to permissivity is equal to 1/2 emissivity times the absolute value of the charge of the electric field. Work per volume needed to cause a change in magnetic flux. Magnetization times the change in work. Change in work. Delta work is equal to H star del B. magnetization times the rate, the dot product of the magnetic field. Not gone over this in a long time. Engineering. The hull material of the Roswell saucer was reported to be very light, but some recovered vehicles could be moved only be moved in certain directions. This is due to local gravity field being locked into the attitude control circuit. Telepathy from the aliens. I theorize that alloys are used that have the crystal structure of the material spin-oriented to support the forces that the flight reactor generates. Magnesium orthosilicate, for example. Due to ion migration through material, the hull should have a layer of topological insulators which support the stable mode of the propulsion field. Field propulsion, directed energy, energy momentum, general relativity. Some of these have had their links cut, unfortunately. Asymmetric cyclic processes and resonance. So the field topology, we'll get into that. God, this thing needs to be unpacked. Amplifications and boosts, superposition, peaking, AC over DC, Lorentz boosts, energy levels. E1 is much less than E2 is much less than E3. Here's the generations of matter. Energy levels, you got flat space-time, you can use impulse. E2 is curved space-time, warping. Energy level 2, you're dealing with muons. E3 is vortex, benign wormhole, and that's where you're dealing with tauons, tau leptons, and their penetrating power on space-time. General relativity. Yada, yada, yada. Four-vector physics is related to the asymmetric cyclic process. You have to understand from your energy systems perspective, right? Because the power system is physically pulling the vehicle towards itself. Whatever power process is going on within the vehicle is pulling the vehicle, is attracting the superstructure of the vehicle towards itself greater than the force with which the planet attracts the superstructure to itself. The medium of overcoming that attraction is a spinning field. Frame dragging, lens stirring effect. So when you have a rotating field, when you have applying, here we're getting into the Woodward transient mass equation. So yada, yada, yada. Quantum vacuum fluctuations are within the field. Woodward's Mach effect theory may explain most field drives. So Woodward is James Woodward, and we need to reference him a lot. You mean Woodward? Is that who you mean, Jeremiah? Six degrees of freedom, flight's characteristics. 6 degrees of flight characteristics. 6 degrees of freedom. Here I do have a SACAG. And the almighty SR-72 with its broken nose makes an appearance. It can fly, it can go zoom, it can go up, it can go down, it can go side to side. You know, it can do some combination. It can go 1, 2, 3. It has 3 degrees of freedom. As soon as the propulsion cuts out, well, then, we get in a problem. A beat up model of the SR-72. Anyway, versus a flying saucer. Saucers have a problem. They have to If they want to go down, it's kind of hard, or you cut out the power and start to let the vehicle fall, but you don't want to do that. So, buoyancy of the first characteristic is buoyancy in the planetary gravity field is due to metamaterials and harmonic resonance of the platform's acoustic properties and electric field generating circuits. The inertial dampening is achieved via certain metallurgical properties of metamaterials. I should leave this, I should put this one out no matter what. Basic field topology is negatively charged on the underside. It's negative underneath. With an asymmetrical positive charge soon beginning on the top of the platform and focused inwards on the center of the platform's z-axis. This is the z-axis. X, Y, Z. Z, if you're north of the border. Field shaping circuits use four-wave combinatory harmonics to create an asymmetrical field topology that pulls the craft in the desired direction. Once the field is engaged, they have to tilt a little bit in order to start reacting off of the planet. If they're going to change their orientation, actually, I believe they do fly asswards. They're working, gravity is an attractive force. They change the resonance of the flight reactor to be the same gravitational resonance as their target, like the moon, for example. And then they would do this funny asswards flight towards it. Meanwhile, the occupants are still stuck within the interior field topology of the vehicle and attracted towards it. Bet your suit is very important. There exists faster than light movement capabilities that is best described in the previous slide. The third energy level, when the propulsion field is doped with tauons, loaded down to the tauon level. I never get to talk. People fucking hate me, and I hate you. People never get to talk about this. They're all so much more important. Anyway, I'll let that go too. Nobody will watch this. There exists a faster than light movement capability that is best described as folding space. Performed multiple times in a row, distance covered. Distance covered is affected by initial velocity going into the fold, is documented in physics and not in the scope of whatever. I actually do want to know about it. Mach effects. This is a transient mass. Yada, yada, yada. 4-vector physics. Frame dragging. Some of this stuff is very important. It came back through again. This requires a control algorithm within the flight control system, somewhere between it's monitoring the active nuclear moment within the flight reactor and the vehicle's attraction to the planet. It is a balancing act between continuing this attractive nuclear moment, so the craft is more attracted to itself than the planet, and then letting the planet, you find buoyancy, you find the propulsion field rotates around the vehicle. So I don't understand the math in here. This is all for consideration. Parametric amplification. This is the Schwinger effect. Da 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 da. Same teacher as Mal Pius, yada yada. This is his hand. Effects of the propulsion field. The propulsion field creates buoyancy in local gravity. Previous slide requires a computer to understand. The platform is shielded from inertia due to near-field effects in the materials used. Two fields can be used to generate a mode of pressure difference between them. Pilot wave theory within quantum mechanics. Yay! Here's some Aiden's artwork. Trying to create artwork based off of what I was seeing. quite like it. Here I'm referencing the Xeno. This part I call a Xeno ruler. This is quite complex in and of itself. Basically, it's telepathic. It's access for telepathic communication with the Greys. The central icon is their little emissaries, their silicon-based life form that comes down and interacts with humanity. It is based in root or five-fingered logic, and it teaches to us to think in one quadrant. Quadrupole, I don't have a quadrupole, but one quadrant. If you look at my diagram, I have one with rays in one quadrant. Herein lies a more advanced form. Oh boy, this sucks. RB47, I'm sorry, why is that in there? Cases give flight field characteristics frequency to 2.8 to 3.0 megacycles, kilohertz, 0.02 microsecond pulse width. The only thing I can give that's intelligent is that the flight field characteristics will vary upon vehicle's dimensions and the gravity field density, the density of the gravity field, the mass concentrations, everybody. So as you fly over certain parts of the world, your vehicle is minutely more attracted to the density of the mass beneath it than it is to the density of the power system within it. Basics of the hull materials. Propellantless propulsion uses field density and polarization to produce an impulse. The materials help to stabilize. Thin film topological insulators used as waveguides. Yep. The materials help to stabilize the external field. The materials are a multi-physics. They are being squeezed, so there is a piezoelectric effect. They are being used to create a terahertz structure, which is a near infrared. So they're pumping as they become charged and squeezed. They generate an electric field, and the electric field starts to spin due to pulse. You just control the pulses in the cord. Think on the round. Tink, 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 tink. If the material is created correctly, it can, i.e. like spin formed, or if there's a polarization structure within the material, the spinning field becomes self-organizing at the right energy levels. You squeeze the material by turning on the flight reactor because gravity is attractive. So the vehicle gets squeezed into itself. The hull materials created with the piezoelectric effect, which releases or creates an external electric field that is operating in the terahertz range. The hull does get hot. There is a little engineered band gap, and on the outside of that, since it's an electrostatic moment, you get an ordered field which starts lowering the temperature, and your hull material acts as a heat pump and supports a self-assembling magnon or a Bose-Einstein condensate. And internally, you have to have the bismuth is acting as a topological insulator because you have charge, parity, and time violations. Parity, I think, is tied into like the Pauli exclusion principle, and there's only Cooper pairs. Think about that when you have CPT, charge, parity, and time violations. And attitude control. This is an incomplete model, but there should be a series of radial poles, and I couldn't figure out how to make the math model do that. It would only give me poles in certain directions. It's theorized that there's some sort of field trapping mechanism It's engineered within the vehicle, because once the vehicle's powered, they resist. It's actually due to the phase. As you try to lift a vehicle up like this, it's going to start doing work against its planetary field, and you can get up to about 15 degrees, but once it gets over that, you're gonna this is the force, I guess, as it becomes increasing up to 90 degrees, there has to be a sign error. And here's where my math falls apart. Nobody talks with me about it. Supposed to be talking with Jeremy about that. Next slide. Magnetic field permeates in the form of the quantum flux tubes, blah, blah, blah. Quantum flux tubes are pinned in defects, locking. Yeah, so it's quantum flux trapping, I think, is a bogus thing. It's fun to play with. It shows the Meissner effect is what we're talking about. Yep, and this is actually not quite right. Maybe it is. The flux pinning doesn't go all the way through the material. It's still a skin effect. Wave emitters, neutron beams. So here I've been hiking us outwards to inwards. The wave emitters are double as a weapon system and a auxiliary form of propulsion, causing deformations within the local gravity field, the attractiveness. Is that even possible? I don't think it is. You can deform the vehicle and then the flight reactor. What are they doing? I don't think Lazar understood the wave emitters. Those are just plain old weapon systems. Blah. Wave mechanics, open body. This is an important slide to understand. Quarter wavelength. Blah, 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 blah. And I probably should stop. Antennas emit and absorb energy, null zones and lobes, amplifiers and filters, variable geometry wave emitters. This is due to differences in the G-field density and target materials. Local density of elements, terrain needs to be adjusted for. Target's molecular wavelength is targeted. I kind of know how I was fried. Flight reactor, blah, 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 pure magic. Study the magic symbols. They fold in on each other. Fuel symbols, the bar and three dots. Fuel source is grown crystal-like, is a highly ordered material which is manufactured in free fall. A high degree of order helps to stabilize the matter-antimatter reaction, which causes a gravity envelope. Anyway, orbital manufacturing material in a factory where gravity field density can be increased will allow for the formation of heavier elements, which are unstable in current terrestrial lab conditions. Systems diagram. Yep, here you go. Spacecraft is circular, power and propulsion is over there because they're the same thing. Field emitters and blah, blah, blah. I was quite proud of this little thing and yada, yada. Based off the teachings of Robert Lazar and Bill Newhouse. I need to go over this again. Blah, blah, blah. That's how I found David. Useful links. There's all sorts of useful links in here. Levitated dipole experiment. Spinning fields. It's right there, people. You can see those two slides. I should just put this out unedited. There you go. There's more of the fuel. I don't know what this one, the bottom superstructure parts, again, contact with little gray brother, asymmetric forces, field gradients within the vehicle, spinning structures, spin stabilized metamaterials. And could those little out anyway, I'm in the bottom left corner. It's not neat though. So like the I guess variations on a theme. The UFO people called the croppies, the crop circle people talk about this structure. It's appeared a couple times. And that's I'm referencing the horizontal structure, which crop circle, which is the flight reactor. In the bottom right corner is the key, the translation key for the fuel symbol, the bar and three dots. In the bottom left corner is, again, like a telepathic. It's ways of focusing the mind. Make your tinfoil hat so you can focus your mind, the mind control rays. It's really annoying. They do talk via telepathic technology. Raw. Here you go. This one is engineering language. I'm not going to go into it on this slide. And that is it. That's horrible. And I think if anybody watched this,